Welcome, everyone. It's Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, and you have made your way to no man's land. We are 1 minute late starting because my dog had a tick. So if one must know, it's true. It's true. I do have some weaknesses in this world, and one of them is parasites. I know I probably have 100 or 1,000 or however many little TARDIS bears are living on me. Nonetheless, I do not like ticks. And lately we've been out in the forest digging up things, doing landscaping and tending to the land. And that means that there are more ticks than I care to admit. And we had a fox eat all of my chickens, so we've had to do It's a long, dramatic story, but that's not why you are here. Hello, you are here for casual news headlines because heaven forbid you have to turn on a television or you have to look at a news headline or a series of them and be susceptible to the negative craziness that is journalism today. So what I have done for you is I've spent the entire wakeless night going in and out of sleep. Solar flares, guys, Schumann resonance, okay? It's okay if you're struggling with headaches, barometric pressure situations, weather-related issues, allergy issues. It's okay. COVID is going down in record numbers. Is it? Is it not, guys? Don't worry so much about the numbers. Focus on how you feel. Focus on talking to yourself and your loved ones, keeping focused on that which you can be sure of. And in the meantime, know that I have perused many strange headlines from conspiracy theories to back again. And I want to bring you some of the ones that in the last 48 hours I think are mentionable, important, and topics of good conversation. So without getting negative or getting too crazy, let's first start with, and I know I've shared with you in the past, Ruined Leon. It is the screen name of someone you can find on YouTube. He is a young comedian, really very funny. He's got a very soothing voice, very condescending, sarcastic, but his recent video called Media Push, I Will Not Take the Peer Pressure, was a really good, I mean, all of his segments are very good and well-spoken. Hey guys, hey Chet, hey Terry. But Ruined Leon mentioned something just ever so subtle under his breath. And as I listened to it, I thought, ooh, who. This is all of us are thinking it. All of us have maybe even said it once or twice. But I don't think that we are fully ready for the full collapse of things until you take into account how serious this is, the synchronicity of it. So join me in this thought, because Ruined Leon is talking about whether or not he has or has not received the vaccination for COVID. It's nobody's business. That if he wants to take more time to research something, or maybe he has a disease that he can't, or is on a medication that he can't, or for some reason he just is taking his time or doesn't want to, or he already has, but he doesn't like the way that people are being segregated or talked down to. And he addresses the peer pressure. And man, then he shares a series of really disgusting, it looks like idiocracy type of commercials where politicians are literally sitting in their chairs in the middle of what looks like should be like, I'm just a bill, like doing things. And instead he's eating fries like a B-roll, D-roll Burger King commercial that they never used in the 80s. And he's like, oh, gee golly, these fries sure are tasty. Are you telling me I can get a free vaccine and free fries? Ooh, and a hamburger? What? It is so condescending. It is so disgusting. And then, of course, he kind of goes on this little side rant about how could you be, trading COVID for cholesterol, or how can you be doing this for that? Like, how do you take medical or health related advice from somebody who's clearly, incentivizing or putting propaganda into here? But then ever so subtly under his breath, he also mentions that there are certain people in the news media, certain people doing polls online that are using the word shunned, like The Handmaid's Tale or like that Scarlet Letter book. They don't read that anymore in school, guys. Nobody knows what that is. Sorry, Demi, you've been cut. No more pedophilia in Hollywood. Maybe that's the full circle of it. But anyway, don't look that video up. That's scary. But this culture of narcissism, the voice has to go up on that, because shunning, that we should be shunning. We should be sending into exile the people who say something, not just cancel culture. Don't just cancel culture someone. Don't just dox them. which may or may not be illegal. This is discriminatory. This is the word you're so hateful and scared of. This kind of, ugh. Anyway, that we would shun. Is it okay and is it time that when July 4th barbecue comes around, that if someone has said, you know what, if you don't know for certain that they've gotten vaccinated, that it might be time to shun your loved ones. And that this very slanted, very biased, obviously just their demographic of listeners taking the survey, and of 7,000 people, 70% or more saying it's time. Okay, this is really important when we can also say, from a mental health professional's perspective, that narcissism, and what is narcissism? Very, very complicated. I think that I need to be doing a video on it. I do it for the people who join me in spirituality and mental health. But as far as like the general public goes, this is a word that is so misused. And narcissism, selfishness, going into survival mode, being isolated, not trusting others. A lot of, whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, the tactics being used right now, Marxism or not, communist or not, biowarfare, psychological warfare or not. If you have noticed there's an increase in just paranoia with skepticism, that if you want to be objective or you want to be just, hey, let's talk about it, and you're not ready to fly off the handle, that you've been exiled from the herd. Whew. This is really interesting. If we see a spike 5 times, 5%, blah, blah, all these crazy numbers, well, what's right, what's not, of mental health crises happening all over. People needing a hug, people needing that physical interaction, people needing to get out and get vitamin D in the sunshine, people needing to connect, to talk, to actually have, we're a social species, to get out and learn and exchange energies with other people, go to concerts, go to a baseball game, and to do so in a completely de-stressed space. That we go to a masseuse and we're not worried that we're going to get AIDS, that we go to the baseball game and we're not worried that we're going to get COVID, that the fear is washed from our space. When can we ever say that that has been, I mean, this is more than a year for some of us. This is crazy talk. So to know as a mental health professional that people are feeling that stress, they're feeling that exhaustion, they're feeling that adrenal, just that bottoming out of our hormones and our glands going, I can't anymore. I can't anymore. And we do go into a narcissism space. We go into a colder, more isolated space. And then if you shun people, you continue to segregate and isolate. Guys, this is abusive behavior, codependent abusive behavior one-on-one. If you ever stayed homesick from school in the 90s and had to be forced to watch Maury Povich because you only had basic channel television, and there you were watching it, this is routine. So you're telling me that he started cutting you off from your friends? Yes, he cut me off from all my friends, told me that, everyone hated me, told me that, I was bringing them down, that I was a burden. Like, talk about abusive behavior. Talk about Stockholm syndrome. Talk about now, and also, as some people joining us in the chat room going, you know what? I don't even miss people at this point, because what we do see from people and the crazy behaviors and the extremisms out there, I don't even want to be around it. And that's not good for society really either, but I can empathize with that, where it's just, we have become so guarded with whom we can even be around, because our patience and our tolerance and our ability to even cope is a thin line, right? So join me in that. If you understand the magnitude of something as so small as shunning someone. Again, I go back to yesterday's show. Check out like Albert Bandura, child psychology, developmental spaces, and also understanding identity fluidity. If in schools across America and in other places too, which we'll talk about in a moment, are trying to encourage and incentivize dress like the opposite sex day, that's fine. I remember doing that in school, right? Or what is it? How do you know you're this? To start challenging your identity in developmental stages. Things that school systems or external, indirect authorities really don't have a place doing. And so if you then shun this behavior or call it deviant, to say, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that, to shun that, it usually tips those people over the edge. It becomes a form of abuse, guys. Neglect is a form of abuse. So this is really important, that if you are saying in your affirmations or saying in your personal motto that you don't want to do harm, but yet nodding that it's okay to maybe shun someone, understand those boundaries and maybe reassess where, who, what, when, where, and how we feel in that space, because that's kind of an interesting thing. And I think for those people who the world ended in 2012 and the Mayans were right, we did have some interesting things happening at CERN. We did have some interesting Pluto shifts in astrology, which you can learn more about tonight at 9:00. You can be certain that there were things in the Mayan prophecies and other Nostradamus and other unique religions and like the prophecies of age old times of yesteryear. But also that's when algorithms changed. It was no longer going to YouTube and just searching something and have to sift through the 11 pages that came up, but algorithms that kind of in that AI space, that subtle AI, that it's going to think for you. It's going to give you predictive text. It's going to start inserting things so that you don't have to do as much. Ooh, that's convenient. I like that. Siri, do everything. I don't have Siri in my house, and people freak out. I've got my girlfriend of mine very close to me who just is convinced that the only thing I still need in my life is to have Siri so that I can have her manage everything and that I'll be, much better off. And I draw my line at certain spaces. And in social media, we didn't have the ability to draw that line. You either clicked on the I accept and continued with your social media, using it for business and otherwise, and keeping in contact with friends and family as times change, or you didn't. And you get exiled and you get shunned. And when the world is moving in one direction and your structures and your Wi-Fi, your internet, your food, your resources, your electricity, your grid starts going down, you're absolutely dependent upon the system you become. And that's not the goal. Right? The goal, regardless of Biden's inability to spit it out, the fish, it's teach a man to fish. It's teach a man to fish so that he's no longer starving. You don't just provide him with a fish every day or he's going to be dependent on you. You teach them how to fish. And that's true. And that's a beautiful lesson. And, I think it's a cross-cultural belief that that's what we want for our children, the leaving of the nest, that they be prepared. And so any good, loving authority is going to hopefully want those same things. Sorry, apparently my internet goes out if I talk poorly of the great he who shall not be mentioned. So let's focus on another headline that is interesting. Don't forget, guys, chime in the chat room if you're listening, even if it's not live. Some future shows are going to be, because I took some new positions. I do contracting and private therapy work and counseling for some additional companies for social work. And so, trying to make money and invest and prepare and do things for myself and education, because I'm not as privileged as one might think upon my looks, that I have to pay for things. And so, some things are recorded, but show and chat and comment. Where are you? What's going on in your headlines? Where are you at? Where are you joining me from? I know some people here from Minnesota. I see some people from Missouri. I see some people who are probably traveling cross country. And let me know if you're hearing me loud and clear. Let me know where you're at. So, new Space Commander. Now, you guys know that I've had to talk about this, unfortunately, against my will, I will add. CRT, critical race theory. It's critical. Race. Theory based on nothing. No, it is based on some things. A lot of it is, you don't want to know where it comes from. Rhymes with Hitler, starts with an H. Anyway, Space Force Commander Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer. Basically struggling with his position in the military, coming out of news headlines. If you're military, if you're interested in this, if this speaks to you, this is a story that I would follow up on. Coming out and struggling with the fact that young military, young drafted soldiers being indoctrinated with things that he knows based on his education, his life experiences, his ancestry to not be true. seeing critical race theory being taught in the military when doing the, I mean, guys, this is when you go through the military and you go through basic, you start going through some of it can be degrading, even though I know some of those rules have changed. They can't shoot anymore. But I mean, they're working on molding and remolding, desensitizing your reactions and your triggers. The idea that you become a unit, a team, not an individual, that you become a Marine, right? But that gosh, I can't even believe this. One of Space Force, which every time I see Space Force, I'm like, really? That's Space Force? He's a commander of Space Force and okay, interesting. Okay. I just forget what exactly they're out there doing in such very serious ways. But saying, listen, I started writing things down. I started documenting, and he's speaking out about it now and saying, I saw this going through the younger soldiers and said, no, I won't teach this. I can't do this. And every time I'd speak out about it, I was getting treated differently. I was kind of getting the cold shoulder because you follow certain chains of command and you try not to be, defiant. And I started documenting in different ways. I started writing a book. He wrote a book. He was basically told, you can't publish that book. You can't publish that book. You are not a person. You are not Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer. You are a uniform. You do not publish a book. You do not do that. And it came to the point, the line in the sand, if you will, where a soldier says, I can no longer do this. My oath, my vow is to uphold the Constitution, to follow this. And I can no longer follow this commander in chief, or I cannot bow to 1619 being taught in the military. And I feel shameful and I stepped down. And the moment he did, he published his book. And so now we have people that, guys, decades of experience, whether it's, Black and Blue, Policing in America, whether it is this new book by Lieutenant Lohmeyer. Shame. It shouldn't be in our military. It shouldn't be in our schools. I mean, obviously military is political, but as far as what you are doing to, guys, it's just, and I would love, again, if you are military personnel, if you are someone who, and I've reached out to a lot of my friends and family that are uniform, my husband, people actively serving right now, ask their opinion on this. And some people are a little hesitant to respond because technically you can't respond even if you're active. So be aware of that too. But this is a really interesting space. Do we feel okay? 1619, what is that? If you're not familiar with that, if you're not, check in with that to know that that's being taught in military and in schools and public schools. If it's not something you're okay with, maybe that's something that it's that moment to take action. So I would just leave that there, and I will move along. Moving along to something slightly less American, I'd like it to be, but American nonetheless, is Prince Harry again in the news. But the reason that I want to step in and say something is because of two particular reasons. One, stepping into space of conspiracy theories where you're talking with Oprah. Oprah, conspiracy theories? What? Yeah. Talk about her schools with like Epstein, Weinstein, money coming in and out of African schools and poor girls with like babies in their backpacks, like horrific things. But I always loved Oprah. No, I know. 4:00 every day after school. It was like me and my stepmom's thing. It's how we bonded. The irony. It's one of these situations, guys, where Prince Harry joining with Oprah to talk about mental health in an upcoming docuseries, and basically in all interviews leading up to docuseries, using the freedom of speech that he has now here in America to bash people like Piers Morgan and other countries that don't have the liberties that we as Americans have, and using the freedom of speech to bash the freedom of speech, which, as we all know, yeah, you can do that. Sure, he can do that. That's great. But we would like to think we can hold these particular people accountable, that we could say, you know what? $1 mansion and shut the hell up. No. You guys got Piers Morgan fired. Yes, he said some things he shouldn't, but he spoke to the, all holy Meghan Markle and said, she's not a princess and should know better. And then Prince Harry got all saucy. And then people get all saucy. And it's like a big TMZ, basically a Maury Povich show of the monarchy still trying to hold supreme on its last through threads of the sweater of control. And then you're going to do it with our Oprah, our Beyonce, our queens of the media and dying Hollywood, as it were. And that you guys go down on a sinking ship together. Harry, did no one tell you about the conspiracy theories of all the children, of all the crazy things Oprah is associated with? Well, it's anybody with money. It's just a money thing. Could be. Money, usually lots of it associated with such behaviors. True. People that have been violently abused, being desensitized. True. All these things are true. All these things are true. Well, yeah. Just saying. We're going to keep moving on. I don't necessarily feel like these people are responsible and should be responsible or held responsible for doing anything on mental health. Yuck. I'm very nervous. I'm very scared. And it's, again, talk about shameful things. I'm a little nervous about that. Nonetheless, we'll see how it goes down. Something interesting. Guys, this is one of those, that's weird. That's weird. I know, not all of you are Yankees fans, but because my husband's family were Scandinavian, Swedish, and Norwegian, because ancestors came over on the boat, falling in love with America's sport of baseball, moving to Minnesota where there's a large Scandinavian community and immigrants all over eating their lutefisk, as Andrew Zimmern would show you on the Travel Channel. And then you have these small little cute little blue and white, beautifully painted little Scandinavian towns with their Lutheran churches, and the communities grow and the people serve in the military, but there isn't quite a Metrodome. Or was it not the dome? I didn't live here. Oh God, Twins people are going to just hate me. My husband outside on the lawnmower. Good thing he can't hear me right now. We didn't have the team. We didn't have a Minnesota team. So everybody really liked the Yankees. They liked, the Murderers Row. They liked the Babe Ruth. They liked this, America's city, New York, and the Yankees. So without a baseball team yet in Minnesota, the family became deep-rooted Yankees fans and still are. I married into a baseball family that loves the Twins, but probably the Yankees more. And I'm a Royals fan. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. Like I said yesterday, my only doll was named Georgette. I'm a Royals fan. So we do watch baseball. We still do pay attention as much as it can be painful these days because, again, I don't need the BLM or the breast cancer Band-Aids. Don't need them. Stay out of it. Just keep to baseball, please. And 8 staffers, coaches, position people that have been vaccinated. Everybody has to be vaccinated. Everyone's vaccinated. Everyone's vaccinated. We're vaccinated. Everyone's vaccinated. We're good. And then like 8, possibly 9 people testing positive. Like Elon and his recent testing of the tests. Tested positive. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? And then, so you've got all these news stations and they pull up the famous, he who is currently under major scrutiny and possible criminal allegations of being like the next mass murderer of our century. Guys, wow. Who knows? Anyway, there's some wild things of Mr. Fauci, who comes on, and I kid you not, I'm listening to him speak, as much as it gives me the goosebumpies to hear it. And I listen to this man who, yes, has been seen out at a baseball game, not masked even before he got his vaccine, but now he's got his vaccine and goes to doing the hokey pokey dance on, mask off. But he said, quote, it's encouraging when I see people that even though they've been vaccinated, they're testing positive. Because what it is saying to me is that this virus is real. Look at him trying to validate something. It is real. It is real, Fauci. You know it is. Come on. And that means we're going to have breakthroughs. We're going to have variants. We're going to have breakthroughs. We're going to have breakthrough variants. We're going to have breakthroughs. And these people, they didn't even know they had it. They were going to work. They were asymptomatic. They weren't coughing or hacking. And so because they were asymptomatic, that's extremely encouraging that they are less likely to transmit the disease. So there's really nothing to worry about. All right. Thank you, Fauci. Cut 2. And I was like, hold up. Wait the F. What did you just say? What did you just say? If you're asymptomatic, you are probably not transmitting anything, so you don't have to worry about it and don't even need to wear a mask anyway. But it's absolute valid that the vaccine may or may not be absolutely worthless. And speaking of podcasts, talking about some really interesting correlations in studies, both published and unpublished, and what's allowed and not allowed in America is the use of ivermectin and its like 27 efficacy rate of having very minimal to low risk, even in animals and human trials, for which there have been many, 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 and no issues. And yet the vaccine, guys, we've got people taking the stand right now, as we talked about yesterday, who said, listen, it's already tapped more than 4,000 people have died from vaccine-related injury, vaccine deaths since 2021's beginning, since January 1st in America. And so with that, that's how many? 3,241, just because we want a fallacy rate of at least 0.102 of the null. How many is okay? But you're telling me if I get it and then I take this medication over here who has far less adverse reaction or issues at all and little to zero death rate, oh, I think I'll do that. Thank you. Oh, wait, I can't? Oh, why? Oh, my insurance wouldn't, even if I requested it? But why? Oh, but that's interesting, Fauci. Breakthroughs, less likely to transmit if you're asymptomatic, so there's nothing to worry about anyway. What in the world? Are people even watching this? It's just amazing to me. It has absolutely nothing to do with who you voted for or what flag you're flying. If you're in this country and you're watching this flim-flam sitting up on a podium making millions, millions, billions, billions, millions upon dollars over here, meanwhile being held on trial over there, we should maybe not listen to that person. Whatever. Anyway, Biden today. The big news headlines are that he is currently supporting a ceasefire. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He's kind of mumbled and said kind of like, well, I kind of really don't think, I wish people would kind of maybe stop. Didn't come out and say, listen, the people in Israel saying I support them, the people in Palestine saying I support them. America is not taking sides. Leave us out of it. Instead of doing that, instead of doing anything Lincoln related, instead of doing anything, what they did do is go to the table. Where are they now? In Vienna? They did go to the table actually talking about Lord of War, Nicolas Cage, buying bullets, selling guns, bull-loney, millions of what? Military equipment, selling it to one side. Which side? Go look for yourself. What? Back to the business as usual in America. So don't for a second, guys, just blindly listen to media or even to me for that matter. Call a person, look at the news, then check like it. I mean, it's annoying, isn't it? Shouldn't have to be this way. That's a whole nother issue and podcast. Okay. But let's just moving through this because I only have a little bit and I'm actually not at 100% feeling awesome today. And we've got issue outside where we're mowing the lawn and we've got chickens to chase. So I've got things to kind of get going, and I don't want to be bringing you guys down in this high Schumann resonance space where we're all a little exhausted. There's a full moon waxing its way into Sagittarius lunar eclipse. And that just means that the emotions are on high. The communication of trying to get point A to point B happening is not going to happen without obstacle, and we have to be prepared for it. So this intuitive anxiety and kind of low level depression, exhaustion, it's kind of prophetic actually for those of us who are aware to what's going on or being exposed to it. And we're all in this together, believe it or not. As not united as it feels sometimes, we do share the shit show in common. But something I have to, if I was wearing better pants, I am wearing pants, I swear. If I was wearing better pants, well, I don't know. They're not so bad. I mean, they're just pajama pants. But anyway, I would stand up, give a bow, do a high kick, and give a round of applause for some of the things happening this morning in the news. And these are, I would love for you guys, I'm posting them in the chat. And I'll post them in the comments because, again, sometimes I feel like if I cut to the screen share, then the video gets taken down. So I'm just not famous enough yet. Share and comment and tag below so that I can grow enough to be able to actually share news articles and visuals without getting cut out. But this morning, the news headline you're going to probably see, which is the tip of the iceberg, the Titanic, if you will, is Kevin McCarthy talking about the January 6th and the insurrection and this committee and how they're trying to have this January 6th committee thing happen. And then big bad guy Kevin McCarthy stepping in and stating that not all people are being treated fairly or in a bipartisan way in this investigatory committee, so he doesn't support it and says you can go take your committee and put it where the sun doesn't shine. I don't think he said that, but he said something kind of like that. You should go see what he says, because he says something in relation to, listen, Nancy Pelosi is clearly swayed and biased, and I'm not going to do an investigation where it's people's cousins investigating their second cousins. Not gonna put money there. I don't support it. And so then they're trying to paint him in this bad light, and it's going back and forth, and people are pointing fingers, and TMZ's waiting outside, salivating, just excited. Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene, don't always like her. We remember her in the news coming in. She's done this. She's a horrible person. She's, is a virtue signaling adopter of Black children. She's done this. She's done all these crazy things. Was that her? We can't remember, right? All this. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene says, listen, I need 5 minutes. She doesn't even take a full 5 minutes. It's only about 4.5. And my husband, he struggled to listen to it because what she's doing in her tactics, she's clearly written the speech. She does it very well. She speaks it very clearly. She does it professionally. She doesn't scream or yell. She says, may I ask permission, please? She gets granted her 5 minutes and she says, okay. She then goes on for 4 minutes to repeat and state source after source the cost of Antifa and BLM and looting and protests turned violent from 2020 to now. The certain cities and what they have stated in their reports to insurance companies, the billions, millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of people arrested, hundreds of people hurt, people killed, people destroying federal buildings, people destroying the public service community, whether it be big brother, little sisters, or churches, or things that are in any other context, very violent, serious felony hate crimes. Not okay. And yet these autonomous zones, they're allowed to just do whatever that they want. That you go there on one day, it's a barbecue, and the next day it's a shootout. But this is our square. Regardless of what the businesses nearby say, whether you're in Seattle, whether you're in Portland, whether you're in Kansas City down in the no longer Crown Center, or whether it's Floyd Square, that we declared this cement square ours, even though we have no idea how government works and it's not the majority. We do this because we declared this, and we've now got a Palestinian flag flying in the middle of the George Floyd memorial. You guys, this is clearly a political space. And how is this not insurrection? And she goes on to list over and over and over Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it was today. So I'll post it in the comments because Tina is already saying, like, I can't even find it, which would not be surprising, right? Thank you, Veritas. But she mentions it at the end of this, like, this is all the same kind of act of insurrection. She goes, I have, I think it was 4 questions for you. 1, who put the pipe bomb at the RNC DNC building? Who's responsible for the pipe bomb? 2, why was Donald Trump's request for additional backup of police and military sent to the Capitol denied? Who denied that? And who was in that chain of command? 3, Bobbitt, the woman shot in the face by a man who appears to be a Secret Service. Who shot her? Where's the investigation on that? The people who stormed the building, whether or not we say that they're, Trumpers or this or that, they're currently under investigation. Some of these people, guys, we'd like to say we have due process, right? Well, no, some people have been held for 23 hours open, awake, things that are not standard operating procedure. Well, they're not military. They're civilians, but they were just protesting peacefully. Well, it's not what they said. Well, this should be equality, right? Meh. And 4, when does the witch hunt on Donald Trump stop? Because we're kind of tired of it. It's old news. Stop it. If you don't want to feed the conspiracy theorists, stop saying his name. He's out there golfing, raising money, doing the things he's going to do. Hell, he might even run for Florida positions and try and sneak his way back up into government. But if we're moving ahead, a country that's trying to, out of a pandemic, record economic issues, you say it's because we're lazy, but in fact, it's because, and let's not forget, going to the last part of today's news, the child tax credit. Now, I have 2 children. So on the 15th of July and the 15th every month thereafter, when we get direct deposited a $500 from the government, are we going to be like, take your money? I don't want your money. We're going to be like the Cinderella man and go back through the line and give them our wad of cash when everybody's starving. When my husband had 2 heart attacks last year, when I'm trying to run a small business, kids coming in and out of school because of Zoom, not Zoom, Zoom, not Zoom. Like, people are in situations where money is obviously a very important incentive. Whether or not the dollar lasts or not, we all shall know by the end of the year. But nonetheless, you're promising to give people through the child tax credit. And we can go to just our neighbors to the north. There is the Ontario tax benefits, because again, like I'd shared, that I have a lot of friends and family in Canada, and talking to them, they have similar programs. Germany has similar programs. There's tax credit. But see what this does, guys, is you have to look at, is this good or is this bad? The who, what, when, where, and why. How is this allocated? Where does this come from? Is this for this or is this for that? It kind of becomes a tentacle into your money. And when you think about whether it was 1619 or 1776, a chunk of our history, there were a group of men running around and a group of people with torches hollering, no taxation without representation. And the fact that we have Biden wanting to extend recovery plans that in fact are making the society more dependent upon a government that clearly does not know how to manage anything well, should not be the parent or the hand feeding us. Should not, is not. If you've ever been on food stamps and you see that they let you get ramen but not organic vegetables, you will know this is not a system designed with your best intentions. See my quote on George Carlin earlier. Now, people all over the world are protesting. People all over the country of the United States are protesting. People are swarming by the hundreds, thousands, children over the border. Yes, these things are true. They're building the wall again. Thank you, Biden. Y'all never do that. Here he is doing it. Get him back up. Do it again. It's quick, quick, quick. And I want to end on a point, guys, where, we had of mentally ill individuals in Kansas City. You guys are in Grandview, Missouri. We have shootings. They continue. They always will. When we talk about like COVID, well, some people are going to die. We do expect certain numbers to happen. with humanity, human error. However, in mental health and in the field of mental health and violence and suicide and crisis and these kinds of things, there's just all sorts of strange headlines. A small child out of Dallas, a 4-year-old, his name was Cash, and he was found dead in a ditch right down the way. And the neighbor and everybody in the Dallas area is trying to blame a deviant teenager in the neighborhood. You can guess maybe you can, or maybe it doesn't matter, the race of the victim or the suspect perpetrator. And the parents in both situations are just absolutely inept from what is provided to the media. That you have this mother of the teen that goes around bullying and threatening people in the community and, breaking into houses with his pocket knife. And then you have a little guy stabbed to death with a pocket knife and left in a ditch nearby. And parents are kind of missing in action. And, for months, like, where was your 4-year-old? Oh, I haven't seen him for 2 months. What? Like leaving your child in the backseat of your car and thinking that, 92 degrees for 2 hours is okay. Just this level of mental health, guys. I'm not sure if it is the lithium in the air or the aerosol or the air pressure or the allergies or the vaccines or what, but I can understand, Tina, on some of these, like, what is okay? Do we need people regulating? Do we need not people regulating? Where is that line in the sand? And it really starts at home. It starts with you. It starts with looking in the mirror. It starts with your self-confidence. It starts with your ability to be proud in your identity, whatever that identity is that makes you unique, but also what helps you join and blend in as well. We have strengths of all varieties within us as humans. And you guys, the UFO stuff, as we end kind of here in the last few moments of conspiracy theory, all sorts of wild and weird things. I know you guys had sent me some things on my phone, and I thought last time sharing that was really fun. Just being able to hear some of the audio kind of gives you an indication of where we are at. So I'm going to show you some of these that I have saved that I thought were really, really interesting and important to pay attention to. So let's see what we've got here.
In 1998, Dr. Zabin became the founding director of the Bill and Melinda Gates Institute for Population Control, with a mission to help developing countries create their own reproductive health policies and programs. In 1998,
so this was a really unique humanitarian foundation agenda. I was looking over French Bill Gates Foundation reports and public speeches where I could watch as a neurolinguistic programmer their language in the past to the future. And this came up in 1998. And the outspoken eugenicist parent planning of children and not children, birthing and not birthing, the language of birthing people versus mothers or women. Some of the same reasons that I think it's inappropriate for someone of the royal kingdom to be partnering with Oprah and some of the allegations against her foundations and misuse of women, all very, very relevant. And so for this continued things with the Bill Gates stuff to watch and pay attention to. Man, this one is almost too crazy for me to share. This was a conspiracy theory brought to me by someone who's really going down the wormhole of pH, talking about our body concentration of hydrogen and oxygen, and how in certain metaphysical spiritual awarenesses from the 3D to 5D realm, and the fallen and the titans and the water and the flood and the biblical references to being a once hydrogen to oxygenated creature, and that the 616 versus the 666 of the Goetia and numerological Bible language be a reference to iron, which we just found plutonium, and we found some major crazy versions of iron. Shared that yesterday in the news. So this was interesting that it came to me. And the heavy metals in and around vaccines and in the aerosols of the air, how that affects our body's pineal gland and immune system, why people are so interested in this, and why iron and certain pH holistic treatments are working better than others. Interesting. Let's see. What else did I think was interesting that was shared? One of them kind of made me nervous. I'm not going to lie, and I've not done enough research on it. It was this one, to be able to share it. So it's something I hope to share with you guys tomorrow when you join me here at No Man's Land. And that is talking about the Pause Act. That if you thought the Pause Act, Pause, was scary, to take a look at some of the farming bills happening, the Oregon bill IP 13. Now, I don't live in Oregon, so this is not something that I'm familiar with. However, I know a lot of friends and family in Oregon and some who are contractors, and I expect to be reaching out. If you're not a farmer, maybe this isn't something that you're aware of. But according to Oregon Bill IP 13, it bans the slaughter of any animals if you are an individual, which sounds good on the surface, right? Well, not unless you're a farmer. It also bans the use of any AI or AI equipment being utilized. It prevents offering any medical care to yourself or your animals and criminalizes good farmers. According to the Future Farmers of America and different organizations rallying against some of these acts, and some of them are eminent domain. Some of these are big situations of the government coming in, taking your land, doing with it what they will. And some stuff happening in Nebraska and Iowa right now. Again, if you're not a farmer in the area, if you don't live in the United States, you may not be aware of this, but it's important to pay attention how this may affect us all. And when you're thinking of why Bill Gates and certain people are buying up 2 to 3% of the world's resources and natural resources, water and land and air, that we have organizations going to farmers, political organizations and lobbyists saying, we will offer you 4 to 5 times the amount of your annual crop right now if you burn your fields and if you trash your crop. I want you to think about that. I want you to stop right now and think about asking a farmer near you, if you know a big farmer, if this is relevant to the Codex Alimentarius in your space, if you are finding that certain medications are slowly coming off of the shelves, being made illegal, that you're being told as a farmer that you can't slaughter or even medicate your own animals anymore. You can't keep them from getting sick. You can't manage your own herd. You can't be self-sufficient. This is important. Also, as far as like strange phenomenon happening, we're having scientists going deeper and deeper in the ocean than we actually ever thought possible. And we know that now because there are certain creatures being pulled out of the ocean, washing up on shore also, that we really thought were extinct. And it's not just one, but so many of them, in fact. And we're talking dinosaur age fish that are 8-9 feet long. And I know I'm going to butcher it. The Ken Gerhard, I'm sorry, Coelacanth, Coelacanth. And these are things that I will be showing my children later because they are prehistoric looking things. And sure enough, we thought they were extinct, and we're finding more and more of this, but also how we're having a lot of inter-ocean research and discovery now in a space where I don't know if it's, people being at home and the STEM coming back full swing, because it's really not that way in America. That's some of the stuff coming out of our schools. In fact, math is racist, remember? But one more thing happening, and this was a big thing. I'm going to leave you guys on this as we wait for the news headlines tomorrow. And don't forget to share with where you're at and what the headlines are. And that this is the FDA. Oh, the FDA. The FDA has recently banned the public sale of NAC. If you are not someone who struggles with an autoimmune disorder, you may not be familiar with NAC. N-acetylcysteine. Okay, guys, this is a medication that is going to help in certain breakdowns, chemicals in the body that, like people with lupus, I don't want to say celiac disease, but your response to certain triggers of chemicals, exposure, sensitivities. NAC is something that people have been able to get at the drugstore or a Whole Foods or their local, shop for a bottle like at GNC for nothing. People probably won't even notice that it's being taken off of the shelves. However, it is, and it's actually being banned, and that is horrific and scary, because for some people that is their saving grace. That is how they live. That is how they function. It's like taking an EpiPen, or in some ways cannabis, from people and watching them have seizures or the inability to manage their central nervous system. So you guys, take a moment, as hard and scary as it is, take a moment to let your feelers just see what's going on around you in local politics, what's going on in your community, in your city, and in your state. Share that with those around you, and don't be afraid to talk to one another. Don't be afraid to talk to one another. Even yesterday, going out for the weekend, sitting with family, and someone asking, hey, have you been vaccinated? It's not the most appropriate question, but it's not going to cause me to be a bitch. And it's like, no, I'm going to be honest. And if you ask me why or why not, I'll tell you. And we should be able to have a respectful conversation, no shunning, no hate. And I'm lucky in that those are the kinds of situations that I have, because I've surrounded myself with loving, supportive, and hopefully intelligent people. And I hope that you are having similar experiences, and that I wish you well. But it starts with talking and compromising and not being scared. You got to show up. You got to do the things. And now hopefully you are in a space where you're able to get out. You're able to get some sunshine with the weather lifting. I am looking forward to June 1st. Who knows what alien craziness we are going to see. And we still have half of the month left. So you guys, if you're listening to me now, don't forget you can tune in tomorrow, every Monday through Thursday at noon Standard Time. You can also find me at paranormalsarah.com if you'd like your own private reading, or you'd like to meet up with me and talk podcasts, or you have something to send to me, an article or something in your area, news related, that you'd like me to cover on the show. Let me know. You can send that to theparanormalsarah@gmail.com. You guys, I want to thank you so much for joining today. I hope that you have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will see you tomorrow at noon o'clock Central Standard Time here on No Man's Land. Until then, guys, have a great day. Bye-bye.